Hey guys, here we go again, back with you another one again. It's your boy Jason Barber, an educator. Today we have a good lesson for you about the cowlicks and the swirls. The cowlicks and the swirls. A lot of barbers, especially new barbers, have trouble dealing with or knowing what to do when they run into a cowlick or a swirl situation, right? And so what I'm gonna do is, I got examples, got our friends here that's gonna help us out. I got diagrams already drawn out, and we're gonna demonstrate. Most of the time when you run into a swirl situation is when it's gonna be in the front, either on your right, middle, or left. And they look a little something like this. So these black lines represents the natural grain, hair is flowing that direction. And these green lines represent the swirl and cowlicks, okay? Now, so normally, what you would do in a situation like this, let's say a customer wants this hair wavement. They want it like a one on top, so maybe like a one open, okay? Which is like a metal blade, 1.5. So normally you would take your clipper and you run the clipper with the grain. That's if you're cutting with the grain. And what happens a lot of times, if you don't pay attention, you would run right to the front and run over this cowlick area. And if you run over this cowlick area with the grain here, right where the hair is changing directions and its swirl, it's going to cut lower and knock a patch in the hair. All right. In order to avoid this, you have to first comb the hair with your comb, and before you start the haircut, and learn that customer's hair, and you look for their directions, changes, and stuff like that in the hair with your comb. And once you've done that and you've identified where the directions change in the hair, you know that once you start cutting, okay, that you can stay completely away from that area. You know exactly where to stop because you've already identified it by combing the hair in the beginning. All right, and you go right around there. Okay, now you save that area. You can either attack it first or you can save it for last. Okay, and what you do is you change your guard. That was a 1, so we want a 1 left on top. To be on the safe time, you go straight to a 2. Okay, you can go straight to a 2 with your lever open to be on the safe side. You comb the hair, and then what you want to do, you want to go against the grain all the way around in a 360-degree direction. 360-degree direction against the grain. And then if that doesn't match that length with this, you comb it forward in the direction of the rest of the hair. If it doesn't lay even with the hair here, then what you do, you can close the lever, and don't take time. In real time, you'll just be like this. Comb it. Okay, so if it's still not level with the rest of the hair, you go down to your 1.5. You get your 1.5, and you with the lever open. You do the same thing. You go all directions, 360-degree direction. You comb the hair in the pattern the rest of the hair flows forward. And if it's not level yet, you can adjust this lever halfway or close, whatever you need to do to get till you find the level that matches what you have with the grain here. Okay, and you comb it and you should get a level. Any stray hairs that be standing up around the world, at the end of the haircut, you take your level, your sharpest, you can take a trimmers or your blade close all the way, and you freehand the area for wild hairs. Next, we got the other type of swirls. As y'all can see, we got diagrams. The green represents the direction change, the swirl and the swirls, and the different change in pattern, okay? So this time we're gonna show you where they normally show up in the back and front. Now this is a different type. This is a different type. Now this one, if the hair pattern, natural hair pattern is going forward with the grain, then subsequently here, you just have like a whole area that just changes direction, and they all go that direction. A whole section where you see the green lines. Okay? It's the same rules for this one as the previous model. You're going forward, establishing the length that you want, and you work around it because you've already recognized it when you was combing the hair before you started the haircut. So you know exactly, you're looking at it, you know exactly where to stop. You're coming up to that point. Okay? Now, same thing. Get your two. It don't take long. You see, it's going in the opposite direction this way, kind of at a diagonal. So you get diagonal, you go directly against it. And then you come across grain, across that diagonal flow. Okay? If you don't take it, don't waste a lot of time on it. Go ahead and go to your 1.5. Everybody's hair texture is different. That's why you go through this process. One person may need the 2, the other person may need the 1.5 to match that length. Okay, here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. All right. Comb it. Check it. If that works, cool. If that don't match up with the rest, you move your lever. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Comb. 1. Cross grain. All right. If that matches up, cool. Later on, this area may have some wild hair standing up. You freehand them. And boom. That will take care of this type of directional change. Now we're going to show you what happens in the back. Normally, you either have a directional change like that, or you have another swirl in the back. So what we're going to do in that situation is we'll come here, and once again, you already identified it by combing the hair. All right. In this situation, normally you're coming up from the bottom, and you normally, if you're doing it with the grain, you're coming down. You see the flow? This represents the flow with the grain. You're coming down. And normally you get here, it hit a patch. And it's a light, and all that up. Now you got a patch, like a light spot. Okay, that's going to stand out. Here, we're going with the grain. Now, when you hit here, bam, you're going to go against the grain. What happens when you go against the grain, it always cuts lower than with the grain. So you're going to have a light spot back here. So you have to be careful, because if they want all this hair even, you got 2 patches. So what you want to do, you come here with this grain. You've already identified it because you combed it and identified it at the beginning before you start the haircut. You stop here. You get here. It's the same rules. You change it. You want to go against the grain. You're going all directions, because here it's swirling. So you got to go all directions. Okay, this one is just going this way, so you go the opposite direction, and then cross grain. Cross grain, okay? Now, I recommend for both of these, the easiest way to be safe is you just go all directions, and you can be safe in this area. Now, if that guard is too big, it's not getting a lift low enough that you want it, you change it. Safest way is just go against the grain all the way around, and you just keep going until it matches the length you want. Now, in the back, a lot of times men get tapers. So here, it could be easier because you're going to cut like most of this down really low. So even though you may have a 1 with the grain here, 1 open, wave length, right here, what you want to do is, if you know you're going to do a high taper in the back, it may be okay to keep going all the way down and lighten that up and go ahead and knock that light spot in there, because you're going to come back and you're going to come up anyway and taper all of this out. And you're going to take your smaller guard and you're going to taper all this out. And then you're going to get all the way down to your blade. And even then, the distance going this direction, this will be with the grain. So this will be longer than this in your taper, and your taper won't come out blended good. So you have to turn this clipper around and do like this when you're trying to, with the blade, and help fade out what you're doing. And you can get all the way down to the point where you fade all the way out to the skin. And there's times where you're going to turn your clipper this way because that hair is going the other direction. You have to go against the grain to get it low and light as you want it in those areas. And even when you're doing the bald taper in the back. All right, here we go, y'all. This one, in the cowlick area, where you're having some problems with dealing with cowlicks here is sometimes they want to keep some length on their hair. However, in this area, if you cut this area too short, then what you're going to have is this stuff sticking up. You're just going to have it sticking up, okay? And then they were like, hey, I can't control my hair. It's sticking up, sticking up, sticking up. So in order to avoid this, and then what you have to do is, in that area, you have to make sure you don't do what we call cut below the bend. When you lift that hair up, you see that hair fall? This is called the bend of the hair. You don't want to cut below the bend, because if you do, it's going to stick up, okay? So what you want to do is make sure you got, that's in this cowlick area, depends on the hair texture. The coarser the hair is, the more it wants to stand up, so the longer you have to leave it. You may have to leave it 3 inches in this area in order to get it to lay without sticking up, or maybe 2.5 in some instances. Okay, the finer the hair is, the easier it will lay, but the coarser the hair is, the more it's going to want to stick up. So you have to leave this hair here and try not to cut below the bend of the hair. You have to cut it 2.5, 3 inches long above the bend, unless they're going to wear the hair low. And what happens a lot of times is, if a customer can't stand to let the hair grow longer than the bend, you deal with a situation like this, and then they complain because it's sticking up, and you have to explain to them what you're going to have to do is you're going to come in here and you're going to freehand, and you're going to cut this hair down just to give the illusion that it's even and it's under control. Okay, and that's the two ways to address that situation. Or you can follow the third way, which is pile a bunch of gel on it and try to get it to sleep down, while it fights against you. So those are your tips for today. It's your boy Jason, Barber and Educator. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.